Good morning, Dr. Murali. Thank you so much for agreeing to be on our program. I'll give you a little bit of background on what this is about. At Vadvani Research Center for Bioengineering, we are looking to develop an ecosystem for deep tech entrepreneurs. We are part of IIT Bombay, and we primarily fund and engage with faculty, postdoc, and students in enabling translation of innovation of science into commercialization. And obviously, this whole process requires more than just the lab research. It requires mentors, it requires advisors, investors, facilitators of all kinds. And the incubation facilities and enablers outside of academia play a very key role. So in reaching out to you, the idea was for us to understand the Golden Jubilee Biotech Park for women and the role that it plays in enabling translation from academia to commercialization. So in that sense, I want to kick off by asking you to share with us the motivation and vision behind Golden Jubilee Biotech Park when it was founded and how it has progressed over the years and where it is today.
Thank you, both of you. See, the first and foremost thing is that India has been very, very fortunate to have extraordinary visionary people. In my view, we should celebrate quite a lot of them. One of them is Professor M.S. Swaminathan. He has been a true visionary. In 2001, and I think a little earlier than that, he decided that there was a park that would be needed for women entrepreneurs to be present. And they should start working there, research there, and possibly even manufacture in that ecosystem. And believe me, Abdur, I have never seen in 2001 anything like that. I mean, at least I have not seen. Maybe there is something somewhere, but I did not see anything like that. And that too for women, when almost, 2 decades ago, it was not very fashionable for a women entrepreneurship and an exclusive women entrepreneurship. So I would say that bulk of the thought process, the vision for helping women comes from him. And he was at the helm of affairs for a very long time. And then one day felt that there was more an industry type of person, an outlook that will be needed so that the women entrepreneurs coming from every stream, be it from academia or be it a startup or be it a collaborative way of doing things. He was very clear, again, another visionary thought, where he felt that we should have an atmosphere or an ecosystem where women can thrive. So it is then that I took over and ushered in a new board comprising of all the leading industry people from this part of the world, so that, they are all much better than me, much accomplished than me, and also have earned several times more than what I have done in my lifetime, so that, they can be an inspiration and a role model for women who are trying to do. So that's the overall background and story with which this was started. And as I mentioned, I bow my head to Professor M.S. Swaminathan.
Excellent. I think, like you said, I mean, the time frame in which this was envisioned and set up is truly visionary, because let alone women entrepreneurship, even the concept of entrepreneurship was fairly nascent back in that time frame. But we've come a long way, right? And I would say that even today, the proportion of male to female entrepreneurs that we see still skewed, not only in India, globally, that the skew is there. I think a lot needs to be done in terms of correcting that. So, I mean, the Golden Jubilee Biotech Park, it is not necessarily restricted to deep tech. It's open to any kind of business, any kind of female entrepreneur. Is that right?
Yes, you're right. It's not only to that. There are people who have put up hydroponic facilities. There are people who have gone with hand sanitization during COVID times. So there are quite a number of very enterprising ladies who try their skills on different areas of health sciences, if you may put it.
Okay. And with regards to capacity, sir, how many such, for example, what's the average distribution of space that is provided, and what's the capacity of the center today?
That's a tough question for the simple reason that we have what's called as modules. So which means we have 20 of them there. Each one is about a few thousand square meters. So very neatly arranged. And each of the companies are occupying a module. And at this point of time, we have a full house. At some point of time in the journey of the park came the BioNest concept from BIRAC. So they gave us a space for another 20 people to come in. So we have another 20 of them there through the BioNest activity. And the other thing, Abdur, is we also have a virtual incubation, because not all of them need to be at the park. So we could provide all other assistance that are needed without actually having to locate them in the park. So we do have people, and that's a floating population. They keep coming in, stay for a year or two, and then go away and so on. But by and large, we do have, let's say, land space where we can go vertical and build.
Excellent.
So we have requested the government of Tamil Nadu whether they could build more space for us, so that we can house more enterprising women entrepreneurs who will be coming in. So I think it's like a floodgate. Once it's open, you are going to have a lot of people coming in.
So is that an issue today for you, where you have more applicants than you can support?
Well, it's a mixed one. There are areas where we have more applicants, and there are areas we really don't see too many applicants where I would like to drive. For example, data sciences, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, all those areas I would like to see more women coming in and leaving an indelible mark on the system. But I'm not seeing too many there. I still see some conventional people coming in. But having said that, I also see some very interesting thing. There are antibody people here. There are flow chemistry people here who will probably challenge China. Then we have automated hand sanitization and so on. So there's quite a lot of diversity in terms of entrepreneurship. But you're quite right that we could have more of the same. We could have differences that will make things look a little more diverse. So it's a bit of both.
Right.
We try to ensure that we get a lot of diversity in the park, so that we don't know which ecosystem, which science, which trust is going to really be the winner. So it's good to have a great assortment of people and see who wins at the end of the day.
Absolutely. In terms of support for the center, are you mostly central government supported or state government, or a combination of both?
Well, I think the park is self-sufficient. So we actually don't need any support from anybody. So that's not an issue at all. Where we are excited and thankful is that the Department of Biotechnology and BIRAC, they all came in to augment the infrastructure, which is the most essential thing for an organization. So you don't have a model where you can invest that in infrastructure needs. So they have been very instrumental. The central government, particularly the DBT and BIRAC, have been proactive. They have their nominees on our board. They have interacted. They also give an opportunity for the women entrepreneurs to travel, present, be part of exhibitions, be part of challenges, grand challenges. So they have played a big role. The state has given us, I think, about 20 acres. Don't hold me to that number. It could be more or less. But which itself is a great thing, because we are in the heart of Siriseri, where land is very dear.
Mm.
This was given by the father of the current chief minister, Mr. M.K. Stalin. So this was given by Mr. Karnanidhi. So he was instrumental in also being part of the original vision of trying to foster something for women. So that has been something outstanding. Now the state government is supporting through several of their departments. For example, they have Startup TN, and then they have what's called as EDII, which is the economic part of that. So they give small grants to women when they need to start up, or they come in when they want to help them, and so on. So we do have such support from the state government as well.
Nice, super. The speaking of infrastructure, you mentioned about flow chemistry, you mentioned about antibodies and so on. Entrepreneurs considering the biotech park, will they actually have access to common shared equipments and facilities like the IIT Madras Research Park and so on?
Yes, that's the whole idea of starting this. Most of the BioNest programs have this as one of their main thing. So they ensure sharing is done, and it's on a very nominal payment in some cases. And the whole idea is how much of these equipments can be used by a number of entrepreneurs. So that's the idea.
Right, on a shared basis, and then they pay for consumables, and then the the seat cost and so on and so forth to occupy.
Yes, you're right.
So you also mentioned there are some areas that you would like to see more participation, like data sciences and cybersecurity and so on. Are there tools available to you to specifically call for proposals and entrepreneurs, like through a special grant and so on? Is that something that you do?
Well, that's a very interesting question. I don't have, so that's where you're right. See, it's a quid pro quo. They should come in and then I can look for funds, or I should have the funds and they come in. But we are sitting in the most, I would say, important cluster of Chennai, where almost every single major IT company of this country is situated. So if you go to my park, you will be going through all these companies before you enter my park. My park is virtually the last in that area. So I would love to see that. There's such a lot of women folks who are in these companies, and for them, it will be nice if they could think in terms of trying out some of the POCs and come there to the park and start as a virtual incubatee, and then possibly try to do things. So once they get them, then I can pitch for funds from several agencies. So this is one of the messages that I wanted to convey today, and hopefully your YouTube broadcast will make more women aware that there are opportunities that they can try.
Super. So I think that kind of brings me to the next point. I mean, that's a very strong point that you mentioned, that you are in that belt, IT belt, where probably one of the largest concentrations of female technopreneurs or potential entrepreneurs there. Is there any outreach program that the Biotech Park, to go out to these centers or call them out for meetings or special sessions where women entrepreneur can address the gathering? So sort of like a seeding event. Does that happen on a regular basis?
There are two parts. The first part is regarding academicians coming in. Abdur, we do have. There are, I think, every year we have several, and the word several here is to be seen in the correct sense, several colleges who do their master's program, who do their training. They come to the park. So they understand what are the training modules that we have. both in instrumentation as well as in molecular biology and blah, blah, and all that. So these people are fully aware. So these are bringing in probably hundreds of young, women, ladies who come and get a feel for it. Some of them go back to their own place and start as a virtual incubator with us. Now, like all institutions, if you ask me, is my outreach good? My answer is, you know very well, it's a no. I wish I could do more in terms of, sending out this message to more women, because that is something that I would love to do it. But as you know, like cost of customer acquisition in an FMCG segment, have our costs. But if there are creative ways in which we can do, we'll be happy to do. So what we do is we collaborate with ABLE, we collaborate with EDII, we collaborate with BIRAC, we collaborate with colleges, we collaborate on parks, training modules, etc. So there is a critical mass of people who are aware that we are there. So it is not so bad. But can our reach be better? The answer is yes.
Excellent. You touched upon the cost of customer acquisition, which is like, outreach activities will cost you $1. One of the things that we noticed in the US ecosystem and other places is that for every $1 that the public money goes into research, like NIH funding and so on, there is almost $1 from private philanthropies and industries that also supports that $1, almost 1:1. Given that you are occupying that IT belt, one of the high economic sectors in the state, is there an opportunity for the park to raise funding from these private enterprises in terms of CSR, in terms of others, so that more funding can come in to support the activities?
Actually, you see, we can do it. I mean, we can do it, and that is one of the programs that we had in mind. Of trying to get some money through CSAR, etc. But let me take a step back and answer your question first, dollar-to-dollar parity. Dollar-to-dollar parity is very unlikely to be in India for quite some time. Now, the reason is very simple. Barring CSR funds, there isn't really much that private can invest on R&D. For the simple reason that it will either affect their top line or, if possible, even the bottom line. And that is one of the bane where India struggles in terms of trying to get some funds from the private. So the world average, if my memory serves right, is about 0.5% or 0.4% of GDP world over, where the government...
For research and development?
For the research and development from government. And I think our government is practically there. It's almost 0.4%. So we are almost there. So where the difference comes is in terms of private funding coming in. So there have been highs of up to 7.5% of GDP, whereas we are probably 0.75 or something like that. So there is enough scope. But the only thing that we need to remember, Abdur, is we have to figure out how do we actually encourage the people in the private sector to invest, and they should see some tangible, outcomes, not be punished for investing, because their stock market is very, very unkind to them. The moment they say we are spending on R&D, they are heavily punished. And we don't have a capital market. And I'm not saying loss-making companies cannot list. What I'm saying is they are not the most preferred companies where investors come in and they spend money and all that. So there is a lot of ecosystem issues that are still there that we need to tighten up in the next 5 to 10 years in terms of planning that we do before we actually start comparing. So these comparisons are good benchmarks for us to emulate. So when we make policies, we have to be sure that we are doing these things because we already have benchmarks there. So we'll have to see what tweaks that we need to bring that will benefit India and Indian ecosystem. But right now, the answer is we don't have too much coming in from the private sector, except probably the compulsory CSR funds.
Correct. I fully agree with you. I think a lot needs to be done. And there are some examples like our own center, Vadvani Research Center, which is funded by Vadvani Foundation. And this year, I think in the last 14 months, IISC has received close to more than 1,000 crores plus. And I think we are kind of picking up on this activity, but we would need, and I like to say we need money at this time, which is not return on investment money. So that money is different. Right now, we need ecosystem building, country building money, philanthropic contribution rather than contribution that is tied to a return on investment.
I agree with you. Yeah.
Super, excellent. So I think we covered a lot of ground, and I wanted to ask you some general aspects of where do you see, for example, when you meet a woman entrepreneur or even students that are going through college right now, finding out a degree and so on. What is your general advice to them? What do you tell them?
Actually, Abdur, the best thing I should do, and especially the elder generation should do, is to basically put it very mildly, shut up. I think the youngsters are so confident, they are so well informed, they are so risk-taking, their risk-taking ability is fantastic. Women are not unsure anymore. Having said that, the role that we need to do is to sort of give them an outline of where we possibly succeeded or failed, like a narration or like a roadmap, and they can try to see how they can actually go ahead with it. My feeling is that if you have not done an enterprise, if you have not run a company from scratch, if you have not either had a failure or a success out of those companies, then please don't call yourself mentor, because mentor is not a position that you can appoint yourself into. It's an experience that comes in, right? So I would say that I'll be very careful. I'm a serial entrepreneur, so I go through lots of rough and tough times and easy times, especially when I bootstrap. So you can give the women some of these tips as to how can you bootstrap, not lose too much of equity on the way. How can you control your ownership? How can you spend frugally? How can you collaborate? How can you take non-dilutive funding? These are all some of the things, because of our experience, we can give them a heads up so that they know that the choices are there in front of them. So it's about women, I would say, more than an advice. I would like to give them a platter of offerings for them to choose, so that they choose wisely, and we can always stand by the side of them and say, hey, you're choosing this, these are the pluses and minuses, so think about it. If you're choosing that, these are the pluses and minuses, think about it. I'm sure they are capable of making much better decisions.
Excellent. I think that's a very, very good point, sir, that you mentioned. The aspect of mentorship is a highly responsible aspect. And I think both ways, the person giving the advice and person receiving the advice have to factor in that the individual experiences are going to be different, because obviously the situations are different. And sometimes narrative fallacy comes in, right? I mean, because of the virtue of position, people tend to say, like, this is how it is done, this is how it is. But that may not turn out for other people.
I'll be responsible, Abdur, and I'll be very careful. Let's assume just because of my position and the number of years that I have spent in entrepreneurship, if I'm going to guide somebody on how to launch a satellite or how do I send something to Mars, that would be quite you should have a great sense of humor to believe what I give them as advice, right? So
absolutely.
There I am very particular that you advise people on what you know and not what you don't know.
Yeah, I think this is a perfect point. I mean, the circle of competency, like Warren Buffett likes to say.
Yeah, we now have quite a lot of people who have been bitten by the startup bug. So I see every other day, how you should run your startup, how you should do this, how you do that, etc. Leave it to the ladies. They know what they are doing. I mean, they are just simply good. Be by the side of them, encourage them, and when in doubt, if at all they are in doubt, you tell them that you're going to stand by the side of them to help them, and you would not allow them to fall. So if somebody climbing a stool, you are just there to see that he doesn't trip over it and falls down and breaks his head. So that's it. I mean, that's all is a mentor's job. So I don't think he's going to do anything further.
Right. I think in some ways, just to rephrase what you said, is that you enable the person with tools for good decision making and let them make the decisions.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Excellent. Sounds good. So I think we're almost to the end of the program, sir. Any specific things, like, say, for example, we have women entrepreneurs on campus at IIT Bombay that we support. If they are looking forward to working with you, either in a virtual capacity or a physical capacity, what are some of the things that they can look forward to and something they need to keep in mind?
Well, you see, one of the biggest thing is that they don't have to go back to their families anymore for money. They don't have to go back to their husband or mother or a father, anybody, because they are all precious family funds that you can't simply take it away. So they will be spared from those type of problems because no funding is available. There's quite a lot of startup funds. There's quite a lot of these BIRAC funds. There are quite a lot of these seed funds, angel funds, pre-seed funds, and so on. So the women today should try their hands, and they shouldn't be worried. I mean, you will have 100 naysayers. Even when I do things, I still have at this age and stature, I have 100 people saying, you know what, this is not going to work. But you have to have a belief system and continue. And the stigma of failure to a woman can stick, because people will say, I told you are not good enough. I told you this is not going to happen. So that can come from family, it can come from friends, it could come from this. And you can have party circuits where people say, you know what, she tried and she failed. Now look at her. So I think you should disregard all these things. You should simply keep trying. If you have a conviction, keep going, and shut out all that noise that comes around. Just don't listen to it. And if anybody says women are not stronger than men, they must be joking, because people like us who have lived our family lives, who have had daughters, who have had women in our ecosystem, we know how good they are, and how we are possibly lacking in a lot of things that they don't, because they come with a great conviction. And the other part is women don't have the wasteful time, or the time where they can simply while away. They come, they do their job, they want to get back to their family. So it's all prim and proper. There's a lot of things that they do. Their management of time, Abdur, is so good. They don't waste their time, contrary to our belief that they would sit and gossip and all that. That's all archaic, medieval type of names calling. They are just so good. They are the first to come in, the first to get out, because they have to go back to their family. So I think women have fantastic opportunities there, number one. Number two is there are funds now. So including my own women's biotech, we do have funds. So they can come and apply. And if their idea is good, scalable, and it is something that can be commercialized, the investment committee will be too happy to recommend. And if they want to try small ideas, proof of concepts, etc., we do have funds from the state government as well, which we can use for them to test out their ideas. So these are the most exciting times of the people should simply break the glass ceiling, come out, explore, enjoy, and be part of this wonderful entrepreneurial ecosystem. And I can tell you, they will give a run for all the men out there who pontify and try to, give them a lot of advice, etc. Somebody whom I have great faith. So that's how it's going to be skewed in the coming years, with more and more opportunities coming their way.
Excellent. Thank you so much for the wonderful words, Doctor. I think a lot of the listeners that are tuning into this program must be very heartened by what you said. I, for one, am a strong believer that the world will be a much better place if we had more women leaders in politics and other places, right? It will be a kinder place. It will be a more global place, inclusive place, and so on and so forth. So we look forward to that future. And thank you so much, because you have done, like you said, in your own life, so many entrepreneurial ventures, and you could have decided to just continue and keep it to yourself, but you've expanded and contributed with your time and energy to do something for the ecosystem, for the women entrepreneurs. I think without people like you committing their personal time and energy, the ecosystem will not be strengthened and proliferate as it should. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah,
and please.
Also have to remember, we have to celebrate, as I said, some of the front runners. None of the people have been a relation or a friend to me or anything like that, but some of the old time scientists have really thought through 20 years ahead of them, and some of the seeds that they have sown is something that I'm just continuing. And I think it's very natural for the people who have done things. Like, for example, I have started a company, taken it public, and exited. That's the full life cycle of a biotech. So people like me who have done this and who have done it in a country outside India too, then we should be here to help the people, help the ecosystem. So it's a given that we do it. If we don't, I think we will be doing a great disservice to the ecosystem and to the people who may need that little finger hand holding. You know what I mean?
Correct. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think with that, I think, sir, sorry, it's almost skipped my mind. Given that you have worked with so many different companies and entrepreneurs, do any names come to mind? Would you like to make a special mention of some?
Normally, I don't do that, Abdur, because, I don't want these ladies to come back and have a go at me saying, sir, you didn't mention my name. Please believe me, I love, I respect, and I have great faith in their energy. Some of them have been doing this for close to 20 years. Some of them have taken off like anything and started getting more and more funds. Some of them have got international awards, not Indian, but international awards, which means they are peer reviewed against a greater, benchmark. So all of them are simply good. You just have to go back to the website and see all those lovely ladies performing. I have tremendous faith in all of them. Even though I have my favorites in terms of who can actually get to the next stage much faster, it would not be appropriate for me as a person. All my, within quotes, the children are the same to me. I can't make a preference on any one of them. But I have to tell you, all of them are lovely ladies with tremendous potential. I have not had, touchwood, a failure lady in my setup so far. At least I have not seen one. Maybe they have decided to sell their business or go away, but it's not that they failed and dropped dead. That didn't happen.
Excellent. Super. This is wonderful. I think we got so much information, and this was, truly one-to-one. I don't think you held anything back in terms of sharing your experiences and wisdom with our audience. And I hope that the audience finds the program truly useful. What we will do is, in compiling this video, Sneha will include links and also contact information for Dr. Murali. So any of our women entrepreneurs looking for a biotech park or an incubation center, and also in general, I think I've, in my interactions with Dr. Murali, I've found him very charitable with his time, forthcoming. I think a strong sense of, wanting to give back, wanting to enable, wanting to hold hands, like he said. So I think, you will find your interactions with him extremely enriching. So with that thought, we will take leave from you. And, on a final note, I would like to thank Dr. Murali again. Thank you so much, Doctor.
Thank you so much. God bless all of you. Thank you.